欢迎大家收看19趁年华葡萄酒知识讲座。在以后的节目里，我会上传一些由我亲自为大家翻译的关于葡萄酒知识的视频节目，希望大家会有所收获。好了，我们出发吧。请点击订阅，谢谢。
The French region of Burgundy is not only one of the finest wine-growing areas of the world, but potentially the most intricate. The simple premise of white wines based on Chardonnay and red wines based on Pinot Noir gives way to over 2,000 years of history and complexity.
Burgundy is very famous worldwide, as you know, because it's the birthplace of two grapes which are very famous, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir.
The climate in Burgundy is continental. The summer hot and the winter are cold.
The soil composition of individual vineyards vary, and each site demands a different approach, from grape selection to style of winemaking.
Winemaking is always a personal view, a personal expression of terroir. It's diversity of soil, of exposure, of microclimates.
Centrally located, the city of Beaune serves as the economic hub of the wine business, but Burgundy abounds with countless small villages, each with their own unique character and wine style. Like many French wine regions, grape growing can be traced back to the Romans, but it was the influence of the ruling dukes of Burgundy and religious orders that had the most influence on the tradition and quality of the wines.
The monks, as you know, in Burgundy have been very important many centuries ago.
They try to make very good wine, and they select the best area to make the wine.
In the early 10th century, monks began isolating superior vineyards and surrounding them with stone walls, producing wines of singular expression. In the 14th century, a Cistercian abbey created Burgundy's largest enclosed vineyard with the establishment of the Clos de Vougeot.
Remember that the monks during the Middle Ages were the engineers, the agronomists of the time. And where the miracle is that the monks during the Middle Ages found in the forests of Burgundy a wild varietal that was called later Pinot Noir, which married to these soils is capable to produce great wine.
The ruling Valois dukes limited the use of red grapes to Pinot Noir, changing the landscape for the future of Burgundy. Philip the Bold forbade importation of grapes from outside regions and ordered Gamay to be torn up. In theory, Gamay would remain only in the southern peasant region of Beaujolais, where today it's still the primary grape. Ironically, Gamay can be produced in the village of Chardonnay, but not in its namesake hamlet near Saint-Aubin. When Burgundy was incorporated into the Kingdom of France, the church owned the majority of famous vineyards. After the French Revolution, former monastic lands were auctioned off. Napoleonic codes established that property was to be distributed equally to surviving heirs, creating a complicated ownership structure. As time progressed, later generations may have owned only a single row of vines in a prized location. This led to the rise of the negociant, who stepped in to buy grapes from multiple owners and produce a single wine for the market. Today, Burgundy is made up of 6 vastly different and relatively small wine-growing regions, but what the region lacks in size, it makes up for in complexity. At the north of Burgundy is Chablis, known exclusively for white wines.
Chablis, it's a wine, but it's a village. 2,500 people, 100% of the people live because of the wine of Chablis. The wine of Chablis is made with Chardonnay, of course. It's a cooler place than Beaujolais. And that's why it makes Chablis so special, you know, that mineral flavor that you get, you know, that light acidity.
The vineyards of Chablis are covered by 3 appellations with increasing levels of quality: Petit Chablis, Chablis, and Chablis Grand Cru. The Chablis appellation includes geographic designations for Premier Cru vineyards, while the Grand Cru designation applies to a single appellation which can be divided into 7 named plots.
The Petit Chablis, it's a super wine. Young, very appealing, very refreshing, very open. Chablis has more body, it's a little different, of course. It can age a little more. Premier Cru, well, you have some Premier Cru not far from the Grand Cru, which are, of course, wine with more body, bigger structure. And the Grand Cru, you have 7 different climate names. You can see the slope. It's facing southeast, and you have the sun all day long on that hill.
While the roots of wine character stem from a maddening number of factors, the wines of Chablis are inextricably linked to their calcareous soil.
You have a good example right there. That's limestone. You can see all those small oyster shells. If you love oyster, I think the Chablis village is perfect, really. Because you have a certain amount of acidity, it's not too rich, and it's a good balance against the oyster.
South of Chablis is the Côte d'Or, encompassing both the Côte de Nuit and the Côte de Beaune. The icon of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, these wines are the most revered and expensive examples of their type, regardless of the final quality in the bottle. Most producers release a wine at the regional level, but the quality hierarchy is extended with a multitude of village appellations. These village wines may include additional designations of named Lieux-dits or specified Premier Cru vineyards, which have historically produced wines of superior quality. Beyond the village level, a handful of prestigious vineyards boast their own appellation, limited only to grapes from that single plot.
50% of the area is Bourgogne, 30% is village, 12% is Premier Cru, and 3% is Grand Cru.
The Grand Cru is usually the best located place among the villages. And you find them usually on a very little slope, usually on the southeast. The Côte de Nuit is known for its red Burgundy.
The Pinot Noir in Côte de Nuit is more full-bodied and more powerful.
Most of the Grand Cru red are located in the Côte de Nuit. The Grand Cru is something that should give you more intense pleasure, developing more complexity, the ability to age for a longer time as well, whatever the vintage, I should say. Here we are in the heart of the Marais Saint-Denis, and the Grand Cru, which is behind us, is the Clos de Lambret.
While Grand Cru wines are universally expensive, the reputation of a Premier Cru may vary in status, from little above the village designation to a reputation that may exceed some Grand Crus.
We are standing in the vineyard of the Clos Saint-Jacques, which is known around the world for being the most famous Premier Cru of Gevrey-Chambertin and with the level of quality of the Grand Cru.
The distinctions between individual villages vary widely. Marsanais can be simple, delicious, and relatively inexpensive, while the wines of the most famous village, Vosne-Romanée, can cost thousands of dollars for a single bottle. Often in a blind tasting, generalizations of village style can be elusive in the glass, but this never stops lovers of Burgundy from making poetic contrasts.
In the Côte de Nuit, if you start from the north, you have wines in the appellation of Marsanais. You have wine in Gevrey-Chambertin, in Chambol-Musigny. The wine from Chambol-Musigny, I should say, are the ones people would say are more feminine, with lots of fruit, whereas the wines from Gevrey-Chambertin would be rather more structured wine, even if they have very nice dark fruit and sometimes cherry notes characters. The most refined is the wine from Vosne-Romanée. Vosne-Romanée wines is usually regarded as the pearl of the Côte.